Let's talk about the other headlines that we're keeping an eye on here heading into a busy week 6. Again, 4 teams on a bye. You don't have the Lions, you don't have the Texans, you don't have the Titans, and you don't have the Raiders. So all those 4 teams are out. So make sure your lineups are set without those guys in them. James Conner most likely out as well, according to Pro Football Network, not going to play in week 6. Jonathan Taylor returned to practice on Thursday. We'll find out his status on Friday. Hopefully he'll be good to go. Saints dealing with injuries to both Chris Olave and Michael Thomas, as well as Jarvis Landry, but Olave might be trending in the right direction. We'll talk about that. And then T. Higgins remains sidelined on Thursday's practice. Now, he was dressed to walk through on Friday, so maybe he is going to play, but you got to be cautious based on what happened to him in week number 5. Kyle Pitts also on track to play for the Falcons as they take on the 49ers. So there's a lot of injuries to get to. We're going to show you the injury board. We're not going to talk about all these guys because we have our game previews to go through today, and we'll get to a lot of those scenarios. But you see the top of the list here. James Conner, again, did not practice. Darrell Williams already has been ruled out. Jonathan Taylor limited, Nyheim Hines limited, so the Colts situation is still very much at play. And the Broncos situation is certainly worth keeping an eye on because that game is on Monday. We do expect Melvin Gordon and Mike Boone to be out there, but we don't know the status of Latavius Murray. Raheem Mostert's good to go. Damian Harris probably going to be out, so just keep an eye on those situations as we start to look at them heading into Sunday. Don't forget, check out Fantasy Football Today right here on CBS Sports HQ on Sunday, 10 a.m. Eastern. So, Dave, Benjamin must start running back now that it's looking like there is no James Conner or Darrell Williams?
Full PPR, half PPR, the answer is yes. I don't expect him to get every single snap or even every single touch. There will be another running back in the mix, but I do think Benjamin's got great potential to come through for around 15 full PPR points.
Adam, when we talk about the Colts and the running back situation there, Jonathan Taylor, Nyheim Hines, Deion Jackson, assuming Taylor plays, it's easy to start him, but let's just play the scenario out. What if he does not play and Hines does? Is he a must-start running back again in this matchup?
If Hines plays without Taylor, then yes. It was very small sample size. It was 3 plays, but he was going to get the ball on all 3 plays, so he would obviously lead the way and catch some passes. I think he would be behind Benjamin, but he would be a pretty reliable starter. If he doesn't play, I think it's too much of a split with 2 guys that aren't really going to catch the ball much for me to really like a Colts running back if both Taylor and Hines are out.
All right, so it sounds like, though, Jonathan Taylor is going to go. He's practicing again on Friday, so good news there. Easy must-start running back, clearly, against a Jacksonville defense that has struggled against the run the last 2 weeks against the Eagles and the Texans. Hopefully Taylor gets on track, and this is the guy we've been waiting for after drafting him with the number 1 overall pick. Let's talk about the wide receiver injuries that we're looking at here. And again, I know we're rushing through these injuries a little bit, but we're going to spend a little bit more time on them when we get to the game previews, when we can talk a little bit more in depth about some of these situations. So again, T. Higgins did not practice on Thursday, however, did return to the walkthrough on Friday in full uniform. So we'll see what happens there when it comes to the Bengals. Rashad Bateman probably not going to go, so Devin Duvernay could be in a good spot against what should be a little bit, I don't want to say it's an easy matchup because the Giants have done a nice job against receivers, but they're going to manufacture touches for him. The Saints scenario is very much in play here because Michael Thomas, Jarvis Landry did not practice, but Chris Olave trending in the right direction after dealing with the concussion might be good to go. And then you see some of these other situations with the Giants. Actually, Wando Robinson, we'll show you on the next board. Brian Dable saying that he might be actually playing in Week 6, making his NFL debut. So Adam, make sense of the Bengals. If there is no T. Higgins, or even if he's less than 100%, how much more do you like Tyler Boyd and Hayden Hurst, who's dealing with a groin injury but is expected to play?
Yeah, it's a pretty big deal. Hayden Hurst has 2 games this year with more than 27 yards. Both of the games are the ones that T. Higgins left with an injury, so it makes him much more appealing as a streaming tight end. And, Tyler Boyd has not had a very good year, but his recent history without T. Higgins is pretty favorable. It's not a lot of yards, but it is a lot of touchdowns. And, doesn't he just seem like the kind of guy that's going to help them beat this coverage that they're seeing, the most 2 high safety looks and all this soft coverage? Tyler Boyd, I think, would be a pretty good start if T. Higgins were out. If Higgins plays, then I have no interest in Tyler Boyd. But, yeah, it's a big deal. Higgins has actually been their best receiver in the 3 games he's been healthy. He's been a lot better than Jamar Chase. So it's a big boost to Tyler Boyd and Hayden Hurst. And if Higgins plays, I don't want to start either of them.
Yeah, and you might not want to start T. Higgins either based on what happened again last week, but he could come back and play at a high level. We'll hopefully get a report prior to Sunday's game. When they take on the Saints there in New Orleans. And speaking of the Saints, again, their injury situation very much in flux here because of what's happening with the receiving corps. We got the report from ESPN prior to Week 5 that Michael Thomas would return for Week 6, but so far Wednesday, Thursday did not practice. Chris Olave suffered the concussion in the win against the Seahawks after scoring the touchdown. Did return to a limited practice on Thursday, so maybe trending in the right direction. So Dave, if both Thomas and Olave are out, any interest in anybody else in most leagues? And then give me the scenario if one of the 2 does play.
Okay, I don't want any Saints pass catchers. Wait, does Taysom Hill count as a
No,
pass
he's not
catcher?
a pass catcher.
Okay, good.
He's their goal line running back.
I
plays tight end.
don't want any Saints pass catchers in my fantasy lineup this week without them. If one of them plays, and specifically one of them, meaning Olave, no Thomas, Thomas, no Olave, I'll like that wide receiver quite a bit, especially if it's Olave, probably closer to a top 15 wideout. If they both play, and you didn't ask for that, I would say that Olave would be still a top 15 to 20 type wide receiver. Thomas much safer as a high-end flex in PPR.
Yeah, I would trust Olave more so than Michael Thomas based on the injuries that they're dealing with as well. Clearly, you don't want to deal with a concussion ever, but not dealing with a foot injury that he can clearly re-aggravate in terms of Thomas, and you know how that's been for him the last couple of years. You see the other injuries that we're looking at here. Again, the one at the bottom, Brian Daboll saying that Wan'Dale Robinson might be able to play. We'll talk about that when we look at the Ravens and the Giants. Zay Jones, I don't know how much you want to buy back into him, but the rest of these guys, for the most part, should be good to go. The one that you want to keep an eye on, though, just because of the way that it happened, I shouldn't say they're all good to go.
Right.
Keenan Allen still is clearly something you want to keep an eye on because this was sort of a guesstimate based on them going through a walkthrough on Thursday. We'll get the final injury report for the Chargers on Saturday. But Tyler Lockett's the one you want to keep an eye on because he got hurt in Thursday's practice after not being on the injury report on Wednesday. So did he tweak his hamstring? Hopefully he's good to go because we have a lot of high expectations for him. Dave, when you look at the Chargers, Mike Williams without Keenan Allen, Josh Palmer, Gerald Everett, how do you view those guys?
Williams is a must start. He's been awesome the past couple of weeks without Keenan Allen. And then Gerald Everett is a streamable tight end. I don't really love him. He let us down last week. I think he comes through and is just okay against Denver.
All right, so we'll see what happens there against the Broncos defense that's very beat up, but they might get Justin Simmons back after he's been out for the last couple of weeks. So good news there potentially for the Broncos defense. Could be bad news there for the Chargers offense. You mentioned Gerald Everett, tight ends. We'll look at the tight end injuries here. And the big one that we're keeping an eye on is Kyle Pitts. Now, Pat Freiermuth, Dalton Schultz, they might be able to return after dealing with some injuries last week. Freiermuth, the fact that he's limited despite the concussion, good sign there, but not the easiest matchup taking on the Bucs. Adam, though, when you look at Pitts and Drake London, just the Falcons situation there, how do you feel about those two receiving options?
I don't feel very good about them. I would struggle really with the decision of Taysom Hill versus Kyle Pitts. And I think I would go with Taysom Hill, especially if Michael Thomas doesn't play, especially if Chris Olave doesn't play, because then I just think they're going to have to really run a lot more of their offense through Taysom Hill. So I think Kyle Pitts, you have to really not like your other tight end options to start him. Drake London is trending in the wrong direction right now. And it's so tough to evaluate because you're talking about what's been the best defense in football so far in the 49ers, but they're missing about half their starters. So, it's very difficult to evaluate. I would call both of them low-end starters, London and Pitts.
Let's look at the quarterback injury board and the couple of names here that you know are probably not going to play at this point. Despite the fact that Dak Prescott returned to practice on a limited basis, not going to go for the Cowboys as they take on the Eagles. He's still dealing with that thumb injury, but probably could be back in week number 7. Tua Tagovailoa not going to play. Teddy Bridgewater not going to start. Skylar Thompson's going to be the starter there. The one that we got to keep an eye on is Russell Wilson. He is trending in the direction of playing. But Dave, when you look at the Broncos, how much do you trust Russell Wilson as a starter and then Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy?
As far as I can throw him, Jamie, and I'm not strong enough to throw Russell Wilson very far. He's a streaming type of quarterback. Call him a top 15 guy. Really don't want to use him. I'm concerned about that offensive line. Even with the Chargers missing Joey Bosa, getting to Russell Wilson and him making mistakes, off-target throws, missing open receivers. That's why I can't love Jerry Jeudy either. Sutton's the only one that I think is a must-start as a number 2 wideout.
Do you know what Russell Wilson would say if you threw him?
What?
Let's fly.